Welcome, students, to today's culture lesson. We're going to continue our study of the regions of the United States, and we're going to begin with the Northeast region. The Northeast has the largest city, New York City, and the smallest state, Rhode Island. And although it's the smallest region inside, it has the most people. It's home to our nation's capital. The Northeast region has broad valleys, rolling hills, and low mountains. The Appalachian Mountains stretch from Maine in the Northeast region all the way down to Alabama in the southeast. Several different mountain ranges make up the Appalachian Mountains, including the Allegheny Mountains, the Pocono Mountains, and the Adirondack Mountains, as well as the Catskills. The longest hiking trail in the world is the Appalachian Trail. It goes from Maine to Georgia along the spine of the mountain range through more than 2,000 miles of valleys, hills, and rivers. Mount Washington in New Hampshire is part of the Appalachian Mountain Range. At 6,288 feet tall, Mount Washington is the highest peak in the Northeast. The peak of Mount Washington is one of the windiest places on Earth. The land in the lower part of the Northeast is good for farming, but the upper part of the region is not. The soil in the upper part is too rocky. Long ago, mile-thick sheets of ice called glaciers covered much of the land, and as the glaciers moved across the land, they wore down mountains, carved deep grooves into the coastline, carried away most of the fertile soil. The melting glaciers formed many lakes, though. Rocks and sand left behind by glaciers formed islands and capes. The most important waterway in the region is called the Erie Canal. It connects the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean. A canal is a ditch dug across land to connect one waterway with another. The Erie Canal is 363 miles long. Before the Erie Canal was dug, there was no waterway that crossed the Appalachian Mountains. Moving goods by boat is way faster and cheaper than traveling by land, so it's really difficult and expensive to move goods from the Northeast to other parts of the country without the Erie Canal. Lake Ontario and Lake Erie form part of the border of the Northeast region. Lake Ontario and Lake Erie are two of the 5 Great Lakes. Now, the climate in the Northeast region is pretty moderate. The Northeast region is about halfway between the North Pole and the equator, so the climate's different throughout the year with 4 distinct seasons, from warm, sunny summer months to bitterly cold winter months. The winters in the Northeast are long and cold with many snowstorms. One kind of snowstorm called the Northeaster can bring over a foot of snow at a time. The climate affects people and animals that live there, and people have to cope with cold winters. Animals' food supplies change with the seasons. Squirrels bury nuts to dig up in the winter, and bears and other animals hibernate. They sleep up to 100 days. Trees like maples and oaks drop their leaves each winter to survive the lack of water. The Northeast region has many forests, and logging is an important industry there. Trees are cut down to make houses, paper, furniture, and fuel. Vermont is known throughout the world for its delicious maple syrup, produced from the sap of the sugar maple tree. Some of the other resources from the Northeast come from underground, like granite, marble, and coal. Granite and marble are used to make buildings. Vermont has the largest granite quarries in the country. The soil in parts of the Northeast region is rocky, and the growing season is short, but some fruits and vegetables are grown in the Northeast. Farmers grow blueberries and potatoes. Other farmers produce chickens, milk from dairy cows, and flowers. Cranberries are grown in sandy marshes in the Northeast region. Massachusetts is called the cranberry capital of America because it produces nearly 2 million barrels of cranberries a year, which make juice and cranberry sauce. The Northeast region has many rivers and waterfalls, and it's very important in the growth of the region because the power produced by the running water made it possible to build mills and factories. By using water-driven power, people could run machines and make things much faster than people could at home by hand. Today, factories use other sources of power instead of water power, but the Northeast region continues to be an important part of manufacturing and power. Iron, glass, steel, and many chemicals, such as shampoos and paints and medicines, are made in the Northeast. The Atlantic Ocean is an important resource for fish and lobster and shellfish. Once these shellfish are caught, they're shipped to food stores and restaurants all over the country. Now, the Northeast is home to some really famous landmarks in the U.S. There's beautiful scenery throughout the region, and many tourists like to visit the Northeast region in the fall to see brightly colored autumn leaves. These tourists are called leaf peepers. I love that word. Philadelphia's historical museums welcome people from around the U.S. each year, too. You can visit Independence Hall, where the U.S. Constitution was written, the Liberty Bell, Betsy Ross's house, and Ben Franklin's post office are all located in Philadelphia. And the capital city of the United States is located in the Northeast region. The capital city is called Washington, D.C. D.C. stands for District of Columbia. The White House, the Capitol, the Supreme Court, and many other government buildings are located in Washington, D.C. Tourists can visit Hershey, Pennsylvania, the sweetest place on earth, where 100 years ago Milton Hershey started a candy business using mass production, a way of making large amounts of the same product. The Hershey bar was America's first mass-produced candy bar. Today, Hershey's factory is the largest chocolate factory in the world. Visitors can design their own candy bar, work in the factory packaging kisses, and ride the roller coaster at Hershey Park. Because of the factory, the whole town smells like chocolate. New York City is the largest city in the United States, home to over 8 million people. To make room for all the people, New Yorkers began building skyscrapers. The first skyscrapers were built over 100 years ago. People live and work in the very tall buildings. The Empire State Building is New York's most famous skyscraper. This office building has 102 floors. Millions of tourists visit New York every year. They enjoy the culture, museums and plays, and famous places like the Statue of Liberty. People love some pretty fun foods in the Northeast, like clam chowder, crab cakes, lobster, and other seafood are among the region's most popular food. Northeasters eat many dairy products too. They eat more ice cream per person than any other region in the United States. Blueberry pie made with wild Maine blueberries, whoopie pies, saltwater taffy are other popular desserts. And two of the most popular sports were invented in the Northeast region. Dr. James Naismith invented basketball in 1891, and you can visit the Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts. The Northeast region was originally occupied by a number of Native American tribes. These tribes belonged to the Algonquin, Iroquois, and Siouan language families. These tribes were organized into the Iroquois Confederacy, a loose network of tribes comprised of the Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, and Seneca tribes. The Iroquois Confederacy is one of the first examples of democratic government in the Americas. The northeast coast of the U.S. was one of the first places to be settled by Europeans. A group of religious pilgrims from England were among the first when they arrived on a boat called the Mayflower in the year 1620. Most of the states in the Northeast region were among the 13 original colonies of the United States. Later on, millions of other immigrants traveled from all over the world and settled in the region of the country, making this area what's sometimes called the melting pot of America, because it's like all these cultures sort of melted together in one place. Between 1892 and 1954, over 12 million immigrants passed through Ellis Island, an immigrant processing center, and many of them stayed in the Northeast. That's why today the Northeast region has many of our country's largest cities. It's called a megalopolis, or a megacity, because Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. blend into each other. Over 50 million people live in the megalopolis. That's 17% of the U.S. population and in only 2% of the land area. Now, this week, you are going to read through some of these facts and record some of the things that you learned. Do let us know if you have any questions, and thanks again for joining us for this lesson. Good luck with your work.